Hey guys, we're going to be talking about Buddhism today. You need to be taking notes, and I don't care how you take notes, just make sure you have those for our open note quiz before our test. Buddhism was founded by a guy named Siddhartha Gautama. He's the one that we recognize that became Buddha. He's the Buddha that we all know. Now, who is Siddhartha Gautama? Well, he started life as a noble prince from Nepal. There was a prophecy about him that said, if this Siddhartha Gautama stays inside the palace, never leaving the grounds of the palace, he will become a world ruler. Now, if he were to leave the palace, go outside of the walls, he would become a spiritual leader. Now, that's not just, the palace is not just a single house. It's a compound. It has a fence around it, and it has front gates, and it has a lot of different buildings inside that compound. And so, if he ever left that group of buildings and fence, that's when he would become the spiritual leader. Now, as you can imagine, his father, the king in Nepal, wanted him to stay in the palace, because if he did, he would become the world leader. But his father said he wanted him to stay and keep him inside the palace to keep him away from the ugliness of the world, all the bad stuff. That's what his father said. Now, at age 29, he had stayed in the palace all of those years, and at age 29, he finally left the palace. And in leaving the palace, he saw four things. He saw an old man, and the aging process, and how sometimes hard it is on people. He saw a sick man. He saw how sometimes disease and sickness can really devastate a person's life. He saw a funeral procession. Not only did he witness death, but he also saw how hurt the people that knew that person that had died felt. But then he saw a holy man at peace with himself. And so he saw three bad things and one fairly good thing. Now, Siddhartha wanted to leave, and he was looking to figure out the solution to all the suffering in the world. That was his goal, was to find answers to why people were suffering. Why was all of this going on? And he actually ended up spending the rest of his life traveling and finding the answers. He traveled many places and met a lot of religious leaders, a lot of different religions, the leaders from them. And he debated them. He learned from them. Argue is not a good word, but that's the best word I can think of. He learned from them. He talked with them. He talked about his views versus their views. He learned a whole lot through this process. And during a 49-day time, he fasted, only eating 6 grains of rice a day. He meditated for 49 days. It was said that he actually got so skinny during this time that you could push through his stomach and feel his backbone. Imagine that. Eating 6 grains of rice for 49 days, spending that time meditating on finding the answers to all the sufferings of the world. Now, in his journeys, he found that some monks believed that if you deprive the body, you will see more clearly the truths of what causes suffering. So that's why he fasted, and that's why he meditated, because he wanted to find out what caused all the suffering he had seen. Through his meditation, he thought he had answered these questions. And in being able to answer why people suffer and what causes suffering, he achieved what's called enlightenment. Enlightenment. And in doing this, he became what we call the Buddha. Okay? So when you achieve enlightenment, this is knowing the answers to the suffering, and this is reducing the amount of suffering that you incur. Okay? And he traveled the rest of his life teaching what he had learned through his meditation. Pretty big deal. Now, the teachings of Buddha. Well, first of all, you've got to follow what he calls the Four Noble Truths. Now, Buddha taught that if you wanted to live a peaceful life free from suffering, you have to understand four things, the Four Noble Truths. You have to understand that suffering is a part of life and that everyone suffers. You have to also understand that suffering is caused because people think that material possessions can make them happy. And they spend all their time craving these material possessions, the stuff. Now, if you stop craving these things, you can achieve happiness. And there are things you can do, there are things you can practice that will help you stop craving all of those material possessions. And so, in understanding what the Four Noble Truths are, you begin a journey that on the Eightfold Path. Now, this path leads to enlightenment. Doing these 8 things leads to enlightenment. Okay? When he established the Eightfold Path, he believed that people could learn how to live a more peaceful and happy life. The Eightfold Path teaches how to change your speech, your thoughts, and behavior to achieve happiness. It also teaches the importance of meditation in easing your suffering. He believed that any person, no matter how rich or how poor or how young or old, you could achieve enlightenment. You could become enlightened. Now, remember, enlightenment is achieving a state in which you have significantly reduced or completely eliminated suffering in your life. Sounds pretty good to me. I don't know about you. Now, the practices of Buddhism. Buddhists regularly pray and meditate. They believe in karma, which means if you do good, good will happen to you. There was a TV show several years ago. It wasn't the best TV show. I don't recommend watching it. It was called My Name is Earl. And Earl's whole agenda, his whole life, was set around correcting things that he had done wrong. He felt karma had caught up to him because he won the lottery one day. He did a little scratch ticket and he won the lottery and he won like $250,000. And as soon as he figured out he won, he got hit by a car. Because he had done so many bad things, karma wouldn't allow something good to happen to him. Sorry, the bell. So he spent the rest of his time making a list of all the bad things he had done and trying to correct them. Because in karma, if you do good, good things will happen. Now, Buddhists also believe in what's called reincarnation. So you spend your life praying and meditating and doing good things so good will happen to you. And when you die, reincarnation says that you can actually come back to life as something better than you were, if you were good enough. And so what happens is you're on this whole path, this journey to achieve enlightenment. That's the point of your life, to find this place where you significantly reduce suffering, you completely eliminate the suffering in your life, and you achieve enlightenment. That's the purpose of your life. Okay? When you do that, you'll reach nirvana. Now, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But that's the purpose. So you can be reincarnated as many times as it takes for you to achieve enlightenment. Okay? And so that's just life after death as something else. Now, you can become better and you can also become worse. So you can come back as maybe a grasshopper or something even lower than that, like a beetle or something. And so reincarnation works both ways, both for the good and for the bad. Okay? Now, through regular prayer and meditation, through understanding karma, doing good and good will happen, and being reincarnated as something better, you achieve enlightenment. When you do, you will be in a state of nirvana, which is the release of worldly problems. Now, it's not the 90s band that sang Smells Like Teen Spirit. That's not the nirvana we're talking about. We're talking about releasing all the problems that the world has, reducing your suffering to zero to none, and becoming enlightened. That's the point of being a Buddhist. Sounds like a good idea. What do you think? So that's Buddhism. Remember, you needed to take some notes. We'll have a quiz before our test, and we'll catch you later, guys. See ya.